Hi, everybody. Welcome once again to Elaine's Extreme Paranormal channel. With me today, I have two very special guests, Alfred Santariga. Good morning, gentlemen, or I should say good evening.
Well, it's
I know.
actually morning here.
Yes.
Okay, I got you. I lost you, Irene. I can't see you anymore. I don't know what I did. Um, I have no clue what I'm doing here. Let me go back.
Don't touch anything, Al.
I know. I don't know what I did. I got your. Let me try this.
So we see you. So that's all that matters. I see you right now. There you go.
I'm getting a call here.
Yeah, I'm trying to pick up. It's not letting me pick up.
You're actually on the call. Do you hear her?
I'm getting an answer. I'm on the call.
Well, you know what? Let's start this all over again because I can't seem to get you back no matter what I do there. So
No.
I'm gonna hang up.
Yeah, just add Al, I guess, to the call, and if that's possible.
I'm sorry?
Can you add Al to the call and then have him pick up at that point?
I don't know if we can or not. I see I picked it up, but
There we go.
I don't have it. I have Brian. I just don't have Elaine.
Okay. What do you? If you'd like, we can. I can hang up and we can try it again, or however you'd like to do it.
that's entirely up to you guys. Whatever you want to do. It's just
hold on. I got you. I got you now. Okay.
I would just have to put all the information back in again and start a new program. So we might as well have fun with the.
Okay. Well, I've somehow, Elaine, I got you back. I don't know what I did. I'm not gonna touch anything. I'm gonna get away from the keyboard, and I'm not gonna
leave it alone.
This is my problem with technology. It doesn't like me. That's why Brian is my best friend.
Walk away from the keyboard, Al.
Oh my God, that was brutal. All right, let's try all over again. You let me know when you're ready.
Not a problem. All right. So we've already introduced you, but we'll start it over again. Good evening, everyone. Welcome once again to Elaine's Extreme Paranormal channel. I have two very special guests with me today, Alfred Santariga and Bryan Bowden, who will be discussing their encounters and experiences at Nuclear Lake. Welcome, gentlemen. Come on in.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Nice to have you.
Good to be on the program.
Thank you. Enjoy having you. So what would you like to discuss first?
Well, we're gonna start off on how I actually came about investigating Nuclear Lake. Now, I was very familiar with Nuclear Lake itself because the Appalachian Trail runs through there, and I would always take my German Shepherd and my son. We would go hiking on the weekends, but I didn't know the history of Nuclear Lake until one day my neighbor, who's a local guy up here in upstate New York where I live, and I commuted up from the city, so I don't know all the ins and outs of the area. But he told me that he had heard a story from a couple of his friends who were hunting the Appalachian Trail. They were coon hunting one night, and the trail leads into Nuclear Lake. And actually, when the Appalachian Trail comes into the lake, it comes in to like a campsite location. And they had their dogs. They had big coon dogs, hound dogs, and they had their guns, but they were small caliber guns, like 22s. So they get to this location, and as they get off the trail, they have rocks start being thrown at them, and the dogs are acting squirrely, and they don't know why, the dogs are acting squirrely, but they just assume it's high school kids hanging out at the campsite, having a party or something. So one of the guys says, listen, if you guys don't stop throwing rocks at us, we're going to let the dogs out on you. We're going to sick the hounds on you. So every time a rock comes, they seem to get bigger and bigger. So another rock comes, and they're getting close to these two hunters. So they let the dogs off the leash. They tell the dogs to go get them. The dogs start charging towards the campsite. They get about halfway there, and they stop. They put their tails between their legs, and they run back to the hunters. But they run past the hunters all the way back to the vehicles, which was like a mile away. So these two guys are like confused, like, why are the dogs so scared? And again, another rock comes out, and this guy says, "Okay." Yeah, at this point, he says, "If you throw another rock at me, I'm going to put a round into the tree," because he has a feeling that this one big tree, and that these kids are hiding behind this tree. Because you're not supposed to be camping out at the lake after dark anyway. And so anyway, he puts a round into the tree, takes out his 22, shoots a round into the tree. After he does that, a 7-foot Sasquatch steps out from behind the tree and lets out a scream, just roars at these two hunters. These guys take off back to the truck, and they don't go back for about a month or so. When they go back, one of the guys just refuses to hunt there ever again. So the other guy goes back with his dog. They get to that same location, and it starts happening again. And he knows what's going on at this point, so he just takes his dog and leaves. Now, my neighbor tells me this. I got to go in. I got to check this out. So I go in with a bunch of friends. Before I started my team, the Bronxville Paranormal Society, I would go out with a group of friends that I worked with that were all into the paranormal. So we decided to do.
Uh-oh. I think we lost Al.
I'm here. We're hiking up the 1 mile lake, the trail to the lake, and about halfway up, we come across a large buck. I would say it has to be a 150-pound buck. 50 feet up in a tree, slumped over a branch, and my friends are all taking photographs of it, and we're trying to figure out what the hell put this buck up in the tree. And I know mountain lion will carry its kill up in the tree to get it off the ground, but I know bears actually bury their kill under deadfalls and stuff like that. So we're trying to figure it out. We don't know what the hell it is. We head on into the woods, and we hike back a couple of miles. We're into the deep woods now, the northern part of the lake, and we start coming across all these little Karens or Inukashuks, these little stone figurines that are up on these ledges where you have to be a billy goat to get up there. And then, once you got up there, why would you be carrying little rocks with you to create these Karens? And first thing that went through my mind was the Blair Witch Project. I was like, oh God, devil worshippers. And then I started thinking about Native Americans. And I said, well, really can't be Native Americans. They haven't been up here in 100 years. So we leave. We call it a day. We go back. We do a night investigation. Only this time we hike in from a different location that I had previously scouted. And I was telling everybody, I said, look, when we get up on this ridge, I have a funny feeling this is, very squatchy area up here. And I said, just keep your eyes open and your ears. And we hike up, and it's like 1% moonlight that night. It's really, really dark. And we're hiking the Appalachian Trail. And at this point, the trail turns into like a goat trail. And we get up on this ridge, and we decide to take a water break. And as we're sitting there taking a water break, I get the feeling that we're being watched from the ridge line to our north, just above us. So I take out my spotlight, which was like a 1,000,000 candle powered spotlight, and I'm looking for eye shine at the 7-8 foot height, and I don't see anything. And I'm looking down below us to the south. There's a holler, and I'm looking down there. I don't see anything. Then we get this horrible smell that comes in, this horrible stench that just comes in, and everybody smells it. Everybody's starting to freak out. I got a couple of guys come up to me who are in the team and said, I feel like we're being watched. I said, yeah, so do I. Don't say anything to anybody, because most of my friends are city guys, and they're not used to being in the deep woods to begin with, especially at night with no light, no moonlight or starlight or anything. So we're sitting there. Then we start noticing that the location that we're at, there's tree breaks and archways and stuff like that. And I said, okay, let's move on. And we move on, and we cross over a swamp. And once we got to the other side of the swamp, we felt like whatever was following us had stopped following us. It didn't cross over that swampy area. But again, this was like another mile down the road, and we stopped for another water break. And as we're sitting there, you can hear coyotes off in the distance howling. And then all of a sudden, this pack of coyotes just went crazy, and they started running all over the place, all of them in different directions. They're all yipping, and I had a coyote the size of a German Shepherd run over to my feet. This thing was running for its life. It was scared to death. Okay, at that point, my friends freak out, and they want to leave. So I said, okay, we bail. Now, I'm telling these stories to Brian. At this point, I created my team, and I'm telling the story to Brian, and I'm telling this to another friend of mine, Bill, who's our alternate camera guy. And Bill says, hey, you got to take me there. You got to take me to Nuclear Lake. He doesn't live far from me. He's dying to go. So early one October, I take him to Nuclear Lake. He's filming. He's got a Skywatcher site he does on YouTube, and he's filming the lake and everything. And we hike in about a mile, and we're sitting at the beginning of the lake, and we're having some water. No sooner do we get there, we're there 5 minutes, and we hear a tree knock come from our east. And Bill says, well, what do you think that was? And I said, well, it sounds like a tree knock to me, you know? And he goes, well, what do you think's going on? I said, I honestly don't know. And I was just goofing around. I said, maybe it's telling the one on the other side of us, on the west side of us, not to come out because there's people in between. And Bill goes, really? You think so? I said, I don't know, Bill, you know, I'm just shooting. I don't know what I'm talking about. And no sooner do I say that, as we get a stone thrown at us from the west side of the trail. And Bill goes, well, what do you think that means? And I said, I think that means we should move on. So we move on, and I show him that campsite area. And at this point, there was a drought that summer, so the lake was pretty low. And we went over, and we're filming the lake, and it looks like a left footprint in the lake. I wear a size 13 boot. I put my boot down next to the footprint for scale, and Bill films it, taking pictures of it. And this thing was at least 3-4 inches longer than my boot. Wow. And maybe another half a boot wider. It was pretty big, and I wear a wide shoe, and it was pretty big. So then I take him over into the Appalachian Trail, and because he wants to see where the coyotes ran us off, and we're in there, and we start noticing tree breaks and archways, and he's trying to figure it out. Maybe a branch came down and broke the other branch, and then I'm showing him, look at this sapling. It's not only has it been broken, but it's been twisted. And he's filming all of this stuff, and he's got it on his YouTube site, and I think Brian posted it on our YouTube site as well.
I'm supposed to link right now.
Okay, and so then we notice behind us there's a makeshift shelter, small shelter, low to the ground, and it really can't do anything for you. Like, it's not something that a hiker or a camper would build, or not even a hunter, because it can't protect you from the elements, and it's so shabbily made that it doesn't even look like you could hide behind it to use as a hunting blind. And we mentioned it to Brian, and Brian said it looks to him like a juvenile had made it, maybe a juvenile Sasquatch. And I thought that was a great analogy. I said, yeah, you know what? You're probably right. So me and Bill are walking further down into the woods, and we come across this unbelievable structure. Long branches, 30 feet long, a foot thick, wedged between 2 other big giant maple trees. And it looked almost like a lean-to, but these branches were twisted around one another. They were woven. And I don't know how you weave a foot thick tree branch 30 feet long around one another. Is beyond me. I can't even comprehend the strength you must have to be able to do that. But this thing is really well made. This thing, not only will it protect you from the elements, but it'd be a great hunting blind as well. And it's right on the Appalachian Trail. So then we move further into the woods, and again we come across the Karens or the Inukashuk's little stone figurines, and we keep moving, and we come to a location that's up on a bluff. We have like a 3-4 foot stone wall behind us. Behind the stone wall is a holler that leads down into the swamp, and we find 3 huge crystal stones. Now you got to understand, these woods, the stones in these woods are either granite or I forgot the other one to call. It's granite or slate or something like that. There's really not a lot of quartz stones in these woods, and they're in the shape of a pyramid. And I actually touch it and knock the top one down. And Bill says, "Oh no, now we're gonna have bad luck," you know. But we go home. We get home, and he says, "We got to go back. We got to go back." Bill's breaking my chops. We got to go back. At this point, he says we should do it on Halloween. You know, Hallows Eve, the veil between the worlds are thinnest. That night happened to be a full moon. There was a meteor shower. We called our psychic up, and she read the energy of the place, and she said this place, the energy at this place is beyond anything she's ever imagined. She said You know, there's all kinds of stuff going on there. And I've started researching the history of Nuclear Lake, and I found out there have been not only Sasquatch sightings there, but people have seen these little light anomalies in the woods at night, not knowing, trying to catch them, but they can never catch them. People have seen these light anomalies come in and out of the lake. People have seen UFOs siphoning the water out of the lake. So it's a place of high strangeness. So then we decide, okay, we're going to go back. Brian, you want to give a little history of the lake?
Sure. Okay. So in the late 60s, early 70s, Nuclear Lake was acquired by a company called United Nuclear Corporation. And they were given special permission by the United States government to play with and use weapons-grade plutonium, uranium, and radioactive materials to develop some sort of engine. What that engine is and why, we will never know. But if the government's giving you that type of access to weapons-grade material, it's not because they want to, have a bus made. They want to really do something with it. And it could have been, you could have been talking about a warp drive or some kind of material. But what happened there at the lake was there was a huge accident. And a lot of this pure radioactive material went into the lake. There were several people killed, big fire, contamination all over the place. And, of course, they shut them down. And once it was shut down, the government cleaned it up. It's safe now, cleaned it up. But everybody knows it's not clean whatsoever. Actually, we've done tests there with even a generic radioactive detector, a Geiger counter, and we're getting radiations that are up about at the tips of the lake where a lot of the water pools. You're looking at radiation, the amount of radiation you're allowed to have per year. Well, there's about 10 to 12 years worth in that one spot. So by standing there, you literally are getting 12 years worth of full years worth of radiation, and you're exposed to it. So it's nice. I mean, nature does come back. Mother Nature has a great way of doing it. It's never going to be the same. There are a lot of animals there. There are these turtles there, but I think they may be called alligator turtles, or got the name of the actual type or creature, but these things literally are ginormous. It's kind of like the Simpsons in the US, that first image with the fish with the three eyes. So there are creatures there that they utilize the lake. Fish are growing in there, but they're
deformed.
Totally 100% deformed. Lot of out of proportion, and it's pretty much still a hot zone. They won't admit to it, but people are walking around it, and what they don't know, I guess they don't think it will hurt them, but eventually it's definitely going to hurt them. So that's pretty much the history of the lake right there.
Yeah, and they actually there was an actual mine. They actually mined uranium there out of the mountain. They sealed that mountain, and they sealed that mine, and they actually pulled the mining road up at a certain location. So you really don't know where it was, what the actual location of the mine. But when we do our investigations, as we walk along the trail along the lake, you find all kinds of skeletons, whether it be fish skeletons or bird skeletons or beaver skeletons. Something is killing these animals there and just leaving their bones behind right by the water's edge. I don't know if they're these alligator bass
That's the alligator.
that they're supposed to have in the lake. I've never seen one there. I've never fished there though.
Yeah.
And swim in that lake?
Excuse
Say
me?
that again?
Is it true that people are swimming in that lake?
Oh yeah. People are swimming in the lake. People are doing they're in the lake, and I don't think I would want to have a dip in that pool whatsoever. I'm actually posting links to our photos because they won't let. I guess the photos won't come up in the chat, but these are going to be the feet, and I'm going to post on there. Yeah, I mean, we see people fishing in there, and I don't know if
I've never seen anybody actually swimming in it, but I've seen a lot of people fishing, and actually people going out there in kayaks as well.
Oh,
And
Yes.
I mean, there's no beach to the lake. I mean, even the front end where it would be more beachy, they have a lot of stones there to try to keep, I would imagine, people out. But I'm sure people, high school kids, when no one's around, are probably taking a dip here and there because there is a peninsula that leads out into the middle of the lake, or a good quarter of the lake it sticks out in, and it would make for a great location to get in and out of without all the rocks that are at the front end of where the beach would be.
Yeah.
But
but they're
I,
exposing
I
themselves to this radiation every time they go in, aren't they?
oh,
They're getting
absolutely,
exposed to all of it. Yeah,
yeah.
100%. It's I gotta be honest. I wouldn't go anywhere near it. I mean, if push came to shove where we were, and you'll find out a little bit later on. I mean, that was a technical option, but that's an option I don't want to take. I really don't want to take that. It's too dangerous, way too dangerous.
But there are a lot of fish in the lake, and there are a lot of turtles and frogs and ducks and geese. There are a lot of wildlife in the water. So
Yeah,
maybe they've just over the years they've grown. Their immune system is stronger than just someone who's just walked in there. Who's never been around it. Maybe there's generations of these animals. Being exposed to it have
right.
developed some kind of immune system to some extent. That said, we decide to go in on Halloween, okay? And we hike into the lake and we pick out 3 locations where we're going to start. So we go to the furthest location away from the car, and we start at this further location where these 3 crystal stones are. Okay, we get there, we set up our chairs. We got all kinds of equipment we're setting up. Thermal imager, infrared cameras, full spectrum cameras. We have a regular camera because Bill is filming. Not only is he filming, us, but he's going to film the meteor shower too for his Skywatcher site. And so we're setting up all this equipment, and we call the psychic up, and before we actually get started, we call the psychic up. We say, okay, we're at location number 1. And what do you feel? And she says, well, I feel all this place has got a crazy energy, and you're going to experience, um, you know, all kinds of stuff at this location. You're going to experience, Bigfoot, and you're going to experience UFOs, and you're going to experience all this crazy stuff. And we're not really believing her because even though our psychic always tells me what we're going to experience, we
Yeah.
never go in expecting to find anything. We always go in thinking that we're not going to find anything. So we sit there, we hang up the phone, and we start my experiment. I take out my compass and I put it on these 3 crystal stones, and the compass isn't moving any which way. I take out my dowsing rods because we like to go old school, new school. I take out the dowsing rods, and the dowsing rods aren't moving one way or the other. I break out the thermal imager, and I'm imaging the stones. And these stones are so cold I can't even see them. Actually, Brian's got to put his laser pointer on it so I could see
Yep.
him in the thermal image because I couldn't see him. So then we decide to break out a Tibetan singing. Oh no! So we're sitting there and we're discussing that we're not getting anything off these stones. Now we actually brought 2 crystal skulls with us: a quartz crystal and a rose quartz crystal and a clear quartz crystal. And from what our understanding is, the clear quartz is a transmitter and the rose quartz is a receptor. We were going to
Right.
try to get energy to jump from one quartz crystal skull to the other on these crystal stones. But we're not getting anything. We're taking photographs. We're not getting anything. So Brian says, well, let's break out to Tibetan. No, I got a parabolic mic going, and I'm listening, and we capture coming out of the sky above us. And it's a beautiful, we got in during daylight hours, so it's a beautiful
Beautiful day.
And
Nothing wrong with the day.
I got the parabolic mic pointed up at the sky, and we're getting like some kind of Morse code coming in. And I go, listen to this. Brian listens to it, and Bill listens to it, and we're debating what could it be. And Brian's saying maybe it's yeah, Brian, what were you saying
Well,
about the?
the way I was looking at it is because the code was as you were taking the parabolic mic and you were pointing to the bottom or the base of the tree, it wasn't that loud. But as you lifted it up, it got louder. So I was thinking a couple different things here. The military uses microtransmitters, microwave transmission towers, in the event of a nuclear attack. That's how they would transmit it. Seeing there was nuclear material there, it could be a broadcast that keeps broadcasting. So I thought it could have been that. Or another theory is we were there years after the fact. And because 25, 30, whatever years has passed, that tree, when it was a sapling, would have gotten the radiation roughly about at the tree heights right now. So that's where they would have actually, the radiation would be. So the tree grows up, radiation or the radioactive material is at the highest point, and then at the bottom was a normal tree, or as normal as it's going to get.
And I thought maybe there was just something above us that we couldn't see that was sending down some kind of signal or something, So we debated that for a few minutes, and then we broke out the Tibetan singing bowl, and we filled. It's getting dark at this point, and we filled the woods up with all this frequency and vibration, and then we called the psychic up again to see if she felt anything different at this point. We put the phone down on these 3 crystal stones, and she couldn't even talk.
Couldn't move. Yeah.
She sounded like she had cerebral palsy. We had to take the phone and walk how many feet, Brian? 25 feet away? Something like that?
Oh, easy 25, more than that, just to get away from the rocks. And she got a little bit better, but she was it was very loopy. Best term to use, loopy, just out of her sorts.
And she was like, what did you guys do? Because I'm feeling this powerful energy. I can't even speak. And I said, well, we used the Tibetan singing bowl just to ramp things up. And every time we use this piece of equipment, we always get great success. So at this point, she says, okay, you guys are going to really, start to get the full effects of this place, this place of high strangeness, because now you guys amped it up. So now I take all the same equipment that I used originally, and I put the compass on the stones, the 3 crystal stones, and the compass is spinning like a top. I take the dowsing rods. I can't even get close to these stones before the dowsing rods start crossing. I mean, the energy, I've never used dowsing rods where they actually worked. And to feel that energy pull those rods across, it was amazing to feel that energy in your fingertips. And it just blew my mind. So then I take the thermal imager, and I hit it with the thermal imager. And the thermal imager shows that these 3 stones are white hot now, and they look like they're on fire. So I tell Brian, I said, Brian, touch that stone. Let's see if it's really hot, because the thermal images. So Brian touched it, but it was cold to the touch, but it was coming up on the thermal imager like it was really on fire. It was white hot. So then we're sitting there, and we took the pictures again with the cameras to see if we can get anything jumping from one skull to the other, but we still couldn't get that to happen.
Mind you, we're also, I didn't mean to interrupt, but mind you, we still hear in the distance what sounds like kind of knocks, or tree knocks, or rock knocks. And they're every once in a while, and you'll hear them, and they kind of like not surrounding us, but they're moving around us.
Yeah, first we hear a tree knock that goes off at the most southern tip of the lake, which has got to be 3 miles to our southern point. And then we hear another knock a few minutes later to our west, at the west end of the lake, at the west side of the lake. And so then Brian says, why don't you pull up the parabolic mic and see if you can hear anything? Because the mic is an amazing tool. The parabolic mic is amazing. And we pulled out the parabolic mic, and I can hear someone, or what I thought was a person, walking towards us in the woods. So I tell these guys, I said, listen, shut up. All we had was our headlamps on or glow sticks. I said, cover the glow sticks with some leaves. Shut off our headlamps. Somebody's coming. I can hear him walking on the parabolic mic. I think it's me.
Oh, yeah. My mistake. Keep going, sir. So, sorry about that.
I'm under the impression that it's maybe another paranormal group doing an investigation at the same time. So I'm listening to this. So Brian says, "Let me hear it." So he hears it, and he goes, "Are you out of your mind? That's not a person walking. Do you hear how heavy that is?" And I don't know if it was the energy of the place, but at this point, I'm starting to feel a little loopy because I'm under the impression I'm arguing with Brian. So then Bill says, "No, let me hear." So Bill he puts on the headphones and he hears it, and he's like, "Al, you're out of your mind. That whatever's coming towards us is very big,
Oh
very
yeah.
heavy, and it's coming our way."
It sounded like an elephant
Wow.
walking on the ground. I don't know if you've ever been to the circus. A lot of local fairs, either in the big city they have them too, but they still put padding down. You can feel when the elephant's moving, and you feel the mass. This thing was ginormous coming. It was big, and it wasn't four-legged. It was definitely two-legged. It was bipedal, and it was moving our direction.
And was
So
Bill there again?
I didn't smell the smell, but I can tell you one thing. Um, the energy in the area, everything, you could feel the pressure building. You literally could feel it. It was just getting more and more intense, and you kind of were getting like chills on your body, and you were stressed out, and you just kind of looking all over the place. Not panic or not like getting crazy. You just felt something was building. Like when the rain comes, if you're outside in the summer, you can smell rain coming, and as it gets approached, it's like that. But it was all over your body. It was just ramping up big time. You know.
And the whole time we're there now, after we used the Tibetan singing bowl, right after we used it, we're sitting in our chairs and we can hear stuff. Because you got to remember, there's a lot of leaf litter and twigs on the ground. This is the fall. There are no leaves on the trees. We can hear stuff walking all around us. You can hear stuff. It felt like it was creeping up on us from all directions, and we have all these cameras going and all these different spectrums of light. Bill's got a flashlight that's like 1,000 lumas. It
Yeah.
lights up the woods like daytime, and you can hear stuff creeping around us. And we're constantly panning with the cameras, trying to get something on camera that's coming towards us, and we're debating what the hell is walking all around us. What is because we get the feeling that stuff is creeping up on us. What's creeping up on us, and what spectrum of light are these things in that we can't see them? We have four spectrums of light going, and whatever is creeping up on us, we can't see it.
At
So at
all.
this yeah, so we're debating all of this stuff that's going on between the three of us, and at this point, whatever this creature, whatever was walking towards us, gets just below us in the swamp.
And
Um,
I know where you're going to go with this, but before that happens, where it is getting below us, we hear in the distance either it's a rock knock or a tree knock. As this thing is moving, you can hear something, and as I'll let you go into that, Al, because it takes it's there's a reason for what I was.
yeah, no, we definitely got a tree knock from our northern western tip, wherever this thing came from. There seemed to be a tree knock, but then this thing, whatever it is, gets right below us. And again, we're up on a ridge, a good 30 feet above. We're behind the 3-foot stone wall, and there's stone walls all through these woods. Nobody knows who's made them. They're all over the East Coast, and we get a rock knock. Bang! Two heavy rocks
Yep.
knocked together. So at this point, I say, okay, I'm going to do a tree knock. So I take out my club and I do a tree knock. Bang! Then you hear a tree knock from directly in front of us. You hear a tree knock to the right of us, and we're sitting there and we're freaking out because we know we got one to the left, one in front of us, and one to the right of us. And even though they're a good distance away, we know there's at least three of these creatures in the woods.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Brian, tell what happens next.
And the here's the good part. we're at a point in this lake where you can't you have to hike it out, or you got to swim through that radioactive water, and there's no way out. So we're standing there, the pressure's building, and the next thing you get, as loud as if you were 5 feet from me, you get these three whoops, whoop whoop whoop, and everybody gets up. I mean, they were loud, super loud.
And before we get to the whoops, you got to understand, it was a full moon that night. So off in our distance to our west, you can hear coyotes howling.
Yeah.
And directly to our southeast, someone must have had a kennel because you can hear the dogs howling. But then we get these three most powerful whoops. But before we get to the whoops, after we hear the tree knocks, we jump over the wall to see what's below us.
Right.
And we take all our cameras with us and we're filming the swamp and we can't see anything. And I said, Bill, hit the swamp with your light. Bill hits it with his light and it lights up the swamp like it's daytime. And we still can't see anything. We jump back over the wall. We set up our camp again. And then we get these three powerful whoops. I mean, it just vibrated in your chest. Now we're 30 feet up above wherever this creature is, behind a 4-foot stone wall, and we're sitting down. And not only did our chest vibrate, but the ground we were sitting on vibrated. And at that point, all the creatures in the woods go dead silent. The coyotes stop howling, the dogs stop howling, and you could have heard a pin drop in those woods. And I'm sorry, what was that, Elaine?
Quiet for comfort.
Oh, it was just way too close for comfort.
So, again, we jump over the wall again after the whoops to see what's in this swamp, but we can't see it no matter what we try. So we're sitting there and we're debating what the hell it was. And Brian says, everybody's saying what, everybody's debating different aspects of this, and we're all having conversations. And Brian says, well, I think, hey, Brian, you explain it.
We're talking about
the three whoops. Why the three whoops?
So basically, let me set it up one more time. We're getting across that little tip of the lake that we still have there. This tree knocks, there's a rock knock a little bit away from there, and then the next thing you know, you get a whoop, 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 as it's moving away from us. And everybody's trying to figure it out, and I just looked at it at a different angle. I thought whatever this creature was a scout. And they were telling the other creatures, there are 3 of them there, whoop, 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 don't move. Don't go this way. So it was pretty much an advanced warning system. Really loud and really scary advanced warning system. Enough to, get you up better than any cup of coffee in the world.
Highly intelligent, though, just the same, eh?
Say that again? Excuse me?
They must be highly intelligent creatures from the sound of things.
These creatures are extremely intelligent. I don't think people give them enough credit. I think just because they look, or they've been seen as looking like large gorillas or primates, you know what? It's super intelligent. It's really funny how people just think because you're a human being that you're the most sophisticated, intelligent creature on the planet. However, just look at the squid or the octopus if you want to talk about intelligence alone. I mean, and that's aquatic. These things they've been around a long time and they haven't been caught and they haven't been really found. So they got to be smart to be able to survive in that type of environment, not only with the wild, but also with human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So at this point, Bill's ready to pack up and move to our next location. And I'm telling him, no, let's just, for some reason, I just wanted to stay there just a little bit longer. And I convinced Bill to sit down and let's just play. Let's let this play out and see what happens here. So we're sitting there, and again, we got no. We don't have our headlamps on. And now let me explain everything. When we go into these woods, because it's federal land, you can't carry any firearms, and you can't hunt there, and it goes right up against state land as well. So these woods are very, very large woods, thousands of acres of woods. But we do go in with 18-inch machetes and 10-inch survival knives and cans of pepper spray to protect us from the bears, the big cats, or the packs of coyotes, because we're not going in unarmed. That would just be stupid. So we're sitting there, and everybody unlatches their knife because, and their machete because we don't know what's coming next, and everybody's got their pepper spray out. And at this point, I start hearing something charging up the ridgeline. Now it sounds like it's on all fours, and it's coming. It's big and it's heavy, and I don't know if it's a black bear charging up the ridge or if it's a cougar coming up the ridge. But all I hear is, bada boom, bada boom, bada boom. 4
Now, look,
feet hitting. Yeah,
yeah,
Brian.
I just want to give you a visual of where we are in placement while this is taking place. So if you're looking at us, you would have Bill to the left, Al is sitting in center, and I am sitting to the right. Okay? So now this thing is coming towards us from Bill's side, correct, Al?
And Bill has his back to the stone wall. I'm facing the stone wall. And we hear this thing charging up the ridge. And it's coming. And there's no mistaking it's a quadrennial. And you hear the branches breaking and the leaves cracking. And it's coming. And all I can see in my mind's eye is a big cat coming over that wall and landing on Bill's
Yep.
back. So Bill jumps up and he starts to run because it's getting close. He's closest to the wall. He starts to run. I grab him. I don't know how I did this because I never took my eyes off of where the sound was coming. Again,
Neither did I.
all the cameras pointing that way, and Bill's running past me, and I grab him and I spin him around and I tell him, "Don't run, stand your ground, pull out your weapon, because if it's a big cat and you're running, you're going to instinctively get its prey drive growing, and it's going to run right past me and Brian, and it's going to jump on your back, and then Brian and I are going to have to stab it from behind." So I turn him around, and we're all standing there, and we're in like a triangle formation with me up front, Bill to my left, Brian to my right, and we all have our knives out, our machetes out, or half drawn, and we're waiting for this thing to come up over the ridge. And the sound comes right to that stone wall, right to that wall, which is no more than 10 feet away from me.
And we can see the wall.
And we can see the wall.
actually see that wall.
Yeah, we can see that wall. And it stops. It just stops. And whatever charged us that night never turned around and walked back down that ridge, because we would have heard it walking. And we're standing there and we're in amazement, just dumbfounded.
Yep.
What can make all that noise charging up the ridge? Get to the wall, stop, and then just disappear and not walk away. And at this point, I had never thought that Sasquatches were interdimensional or anything along those lines. I thought they were flesh and blood creatures, and I wouldn't even consider the possibility that they were interdimensional. Personally, I thought maybe they have an ability to change the spectrum of light they're in or cloak themselves, so when hunters would get them in their crosshairs, 1 minute they'd be there, the next minute they wouldn't. But not that they actually disappeared, but they just changed the spectrum of light that they were in, but they were still there. But we don't hear this thing walk away, and we're sitting there in just amazement. And 3 miles away from us at the southern tip of the lake, we hear a tree knock. And we just look at each other and we say, there's no way on God
from
green
point A
from point A to point B, 3 miles away, in a matter of
5 seconds.
5 seconds, yeah,
5 seconds.
And we debated that for like a half hour. So we're sitting there. So everything settles down. We sit back down again. Now Bill is really ready to go.
Yeah.
and I'm saying 5 more minutes. Just give me 5 more minutes.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Brian. Tell what happened.
So everybody's machetes are out, and we're kind of looking over in that area. We put some light in there. There's nothing. Full spectrum, heat, FLIR, nothing whatsoever, and we're just trying to make heads or tails of it. And we said, you know what, 5 more minutes, whatever. We'll sit here. I was kind of ready to go. I mean, like, we've had enough. We're pushing our luck at a certain point, but things started to feel less pressure. I was like, okay, maybe this isn't so bad. So we all, compose ourselves, get ourselves situated. We all sit back down, and we start having a little chat. And before you know it, where I'm sitting, you hear like a break of a branch, and the next thing you know, this boulder. And when I say I'm using my hands as this, it's really boulder.
It had to be the size of a bowling ball. Had to be
bigger than a bowling ball, and it's thrown at me. It lands just behind my chair, so I feel it hit the ground, and then it rolls down and hits my chair, almost pushes me out of my seat.
Wow!
And at that point, it's like, yeah, it's time to go. But what I think really happened was we had this creature there. They were trying to get their family or whoever from their point across the lake and coming at us. And we were in the way of them transversing that without any problems. That last rock there was like, damn it, the hell with you. It was a frustration type of gesture because if you can pick up a rock that large, that kind of boulder, and you can throw it with that ease, and we're talking about throwing it a fairly large distance, you could have crushed my head with it. This creature had no desire to have any type of interaction with us in that way. The fact that we stood our ground said to that creature, in my opinion, it's kind of like, that these people are serious. Whatever these are, they're not moving. They're not afraid of me. And when something's not afraid of something that is that kind of big, then it could be a tussle for them. They don't want any problems. So after that, we heard another knock, and I think it was like, go the other way, and we'll circle around back. But that boulder coming down was the last of that evening. And as soon as that happened, I was taken back. I'm looking around. We kind of went back up on that ridge, and we're looking over there. There's nothing. And these things, you understand, it is so black. Normally you can see your hand in some moonlight. You can't see your hand in moonlight. You need lights. It's with a 2 foot maybe visibility, but even with the light spreading out over there, there's no footprints. There's no trace of this. There's no smell of these things. If it's traveling that fast, it's got to be knocking into woods or know where these trees and branches are without getting killed. If I ran, I would have gotten poked in the eye, poked in the face, in the ear. I would have fallen on my ass, and everything would have been a mess. So
we would have broke our ankles trying to run through those.
In a heartbeat.
Not only for all the down limbs and stuff like that, but there was tons of rocks everywhere. It was very, very rocky terrain that we were on.
Not forgiving whatsoever.
And I can't tell you, every time something happened, I'm sorry, Elaine, I didn't hear you.
That's okay. They're very sure-footed as well, then, from the sound of it.
100% sure.
Absolutely.
They know their terrain. This is their home. It's kind of like, I'll give you an example. I have little kids, and they have stuff all over the place, no matter how much I yell at them to move stuff around. But we have certain pathways in our home, and in the middle of the night, even in the pitch black, I know where I'm going because I'm used to it. Someone else came in, one of our friends stayed over, and they almost killed themselves 3 times just getting out of the little sofa area there because they couldn't navigate the third Barbie doll from the left to whatever. They didn't know the whole minefield. So that's the greatest analogy in the world. You know your home, and you know your pattern, and you know where people keep their stuff. So for us to be in there, we're blind. We're going blind, especially since we didn't have that much daylight to really survey the entire area there. We got to that point when it was really getting dark, and there really wasn't an ability to.
It was dark.
Go over to another part of the edge, or go a little bit deeper. So,
and Elaine,
kudos to the Bigfoot.
I can't tell you how many times we jumped over that 3-4 foot wall and ran to that ridge line to look down into that swamp. And no matter how many times, every time something happened, we jumped over that wall. We ran to the edge of that ridge line. And no matter how many times we went there, we never seen anything. And you know what? If something really wanted to creep up on us, it could have creeped up on us. For every time we left our campsite, that was their opportunity to move in. I mean, if something would have came in behind us and trashed our campsite, we would have been out of there in a heartbeat. But I will say this: we were very lucky to the extent that whatever this creature was, it wasn't aggressive. And because I've read many accounts where these things will show a force, a strength, show their strength. They'll break branches. They'll rip trees out of the ground. They'll just stand there screaming at you at the top of their lungs, really to intimidate you and scare you off. But I think, like Brian said, when he threw that rock at us, that was just like, the hell with you guys. I'm getting out of here.
Yeah, it was kind of pissed. I think we're like, oh, darn it. You guys just move, it's like frustration. But, just think about this. There's a lot of reports in Canada of these creatures literally ripping trees out of the ground with roots and all, and flipping them upside down and putting them down into the ground again.
Wow.
So, and we're not talking about like a small tree, like a diameter, like maybe even, we're talking about, you know, a 2 foot, 3 foot diameter, you know, a pre-existing nice size piece of wood out of the ground and putting it back down. Kind of like the Karens, but another way of saying, listen, I can kill you at will. And yeah, we're lucky that it wasn't that aggressive. Now, we used to discuss this, and I will thoroughly say that had this creature vocalized more than the whoops and has done some of the screaming or the yells, like you know, like really, we would have been out of there within a second. We would have all been, you know, we would have left our stuff and gone, because that's a different type of reaction. This was like, come on, move. Come on, you know, like you kind of poking somebody, prodding them to kind of get going. You think, well, it worked in the past with some people, but if this creature just yelled and then, like, you know, knocked a tree, there's no question in my mind, Bill would have been the first one running out. And we would have been, you know, not running out, but we would have been, you know, following just to make sure he wouldn't get killed. And we would have said, like, you know, we'll come back for this stuff tomorrow or whatever.
Yeah, we would have definitely came back for the equipment another day. There's no doubt about it. Because I've experienced. Say that again?
Sorry. Do you think it's possible at all that maybe this creature is interested in seeing what humans are, what they're like, what they do? They're just inquisitive rather than just come right out and attack. But in other words, I'm going to defend myself.
Well, I think they know what humans are, and I think if they're inquisitive, it's always around children. They tend to stay in the bushes or behind trees, and they watch kids play. You know, I know some people will say that they're hunting the small children and to eat them and stuff like that. I mean, that's I don't know. Maybe they are, but I know. There's a lot of, I know that particular campsite on that trail that we had passed earlier in the evening, which was our third location on the way out. There have been people there camping when the Bigfoots have actually come into their campsite and rummaged around their stove and their coolers and stuff like that, but never, you know, ripped up the tents or chased anyone out. But these people who are in these campsites that had wrote them down on the BFRO sighting report talk about seeing these, you know, 7-8 foot creatures in the shadows of the moonlight walking around their tents and stuff like that. So they don't seem to be that aggressive in this particular area. I know in Whitehall, New York, it's a whole different animal. These creatures are much more aggressive up there.
Whitehall, Ohio has aggressive creatures. Mid part of the country has a lot more aggressive Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever. And we always discuss this too, and I think part of the reason why is the population density of this area is so large, they can't get that aggressive. They're outnumbered. They're outgunned. They're outnumbered. And I think they know from a history of how human beings act that you just can go so far before they're going to either bring a gun or a knife or a fire or a problem.
And they probably know if the humans out there to try to kill them. They're like, where's this program on killing Bigfoot?
Yeah, I'm really against that junk. You know, just to kill something to prove its existence. But like Al said, and you know, you have to understand, I don't know for sure, but the assumption is, if you believe they exist, I personally do, they're more humanistic. They have an animal tendency because it's you know, it's that balance right there. Maybe they're the missing link. We don't know, but it seems that they do have a family unit. They have a male and a female. They have offspring, and their offspring are, you know, you go from a baby to a preteen to a teenager to a young adult, and each one of those stages along the way carry certain characteristics, just like in human beings. You know, I'm sure when the younger see, like, you know, other creatures that are about their age or whatever, you know, they're stuck in the woods. They get to play with rocks and sticks and hunt and whatever, but they see other people and they smell better. They don't smell like a Bigfoot. You know, humans, even in their worst smell, can nowhere near what some of these creatures have reported to smell, especially girls. daughter, my daughter's always like, oh, let me have some perfume or something. So when they see little children playing and they don't smell bad and they're like, oh, wow, that's pretty. And there's an innocence there where a lot of reports of kids have been, they have an interaction with these creatures where they'll leave something, they'll gift things, which, mind you, is not always a good thing to do, but that's a separate story. They'll put like apples there, and then these creatures they create from twigs and branches, like these little stick figures, and they leave those there, or they'll leave a flower. It's very much, I can't help but Jane Goodall's interaction with how she started with the gorillas, and it's baby steps, but some people have a better interaction with them. And then again, we have human beings that are the nastiest people on the planet, and they'll just shoot them. So it depends, what kind of creature you get to, especially if a creature is not going through a rut where it's mating season and all bets are off. We don't know how they act. I'm sure they're going to be a lot more aggressive, and they don't care that you're camping there. Get the heck out.
Or if they're hunting too, they tend to be more aggressive if they're hunting, and they usually hunt in a family unit. One will drive a deer or something down a game trail, and there will be two on either side of the trail to ambush it and stuff like that. So if you walk into one of their hunting camps and you ruin one of their hunts, I'm sure they would piss them off, and then you would get the full effect of their anger. I know as a kid in Florida, and it's a whole different story, I've seen a skunk ape or Florida Bigfoot that was 9 feet tall, literally 6-7 feet away from me, scream at the top of its lungs and flex its muscles, and almost like a bodybuilder does. And I was standing behind an eighth of an inch of glass, and that scream went through me, and the fear that hit me was paralyzing. And it was just, if this creature would have done that night in the woods,
we would have been out.
We would have got out of there so fast. You wouldn't have been able to see us, just our dust as we ran out. But after that settled down, after it must have went away and it gave up on us, we decided the whole atmosphere changed in that area, and it just kind of went.
It got
quiet.
better. It got normal.
Yeah, it got normal. And it got quiet, and we decided to pack up and move. So we're moving to our second location, and as we're moving to our second location, everybody's got all their gear packed up, and thank God Brian decided, because Brian was streaming live that night on Twitter, and he decided to keep his camera out and just keep streaming as we were hiking.
Yeah, I actually had this camera that I just purchased. It's not a great camera in general, but it's really great at night. It's an Olympus camera. It's an underwater camera. It's for scuba diving. And for some reason, it uses some kind of algorithms, but it takes amazing shots with very limited, if not no light. So I was packing my stuff up, and I put it in my bag, and I said, nope. In the back of my head, I said, I don't want to be that guy that sees something, especially after what we had, and couldn't get to their camera. So I stuck it in my inside, breast pocket of my winter coat. And then I had access to it. Boom, I could pull it right out. And we hiked, and we got all our packs on. We started hiking out of this one point, and I'm just going to use the camera there. And we're going down around this lake to the tip of the lake, and then up this little area there. We get to a point where we can see the full length of the lake. It opens up, and you can see the stars. It's a beautiful night. No, very little, little if not none air traffic. Very quiet, beautiful. Then we see this kind of like this orangish yellow type of light that I see, I see it on the right. This is where I notice it. And it's moving, in my field of view from the right side, and it's slowly going over towards the middle of the lake to the left. And everybody kind of catches it at the same moment. And at the same time, we all go, what is that? And I remember pointing at it. And this is pretty far a distance from us. It was probably a bunch of miles away from the actual lake itself. And as soon as we all said, what is that? It stopped moving from right to left, and it started heading towards us at this point. So we're all kind of like getting a little bit, crazy.
But when I seen the thing in the sky, and I noticed it as we were hiking towards, what Brian said, to that northern tip of the lake, I seen it coming across from our west going east, but in my recollection, it wasn't orange. It was like a silverish light, like a strobe light flashing in the sky. And I didn't want to say anything to anybody else because I don't want to freak anybody out.
Right.
And then I don't remember who was the first one to point it out and say, "What's that?" But as soon as we did, the thing stopped dead, and it made a beeline towards us.
Yep.
So as it's coming towards us, and you got to remember, we're standing on all these giant rocks. The trees have no leaves on it. As it's coming towards us, and it doesn't turn in any way, shape, or form.
It
just comes straight
goes
towards
straight
us.
at you.
I tell all the guys, shut off your headlamps. Maybe it won't see us. As we shut off our headlamps, this thing hits us with a floodlight, and it lights us up. And Bryan is filming it, and thank God he's got it on film. He's streaming and he's filming it, and we're filming it. But in the video, you could see what Bryan was talking about, the different color lights, the orange and like the reds and the blues and the purples and stuff like that, which I didn't see originally. I just seen the silver strobe kind of thing. So we're standing there and we're looking at it, and it's got us in this floodlight, and I'm thinking, man, maybe we shouldn't be standing in this thing's light because I don't know what it's going to do, because just south of the lake that we're at, maybe a half a mile, is a lake called Whaley Lake. And I know of a couple of guys that were abducted fishing on that lake at night. And
Right.
1 minute they seen this strobe light coming at them. And then the next thing they remember waking up on the beach at 7 o'clock in the morning, and they went out at midnight to fish. So they lost 7 hours. And this is going through the back of my mind. You know what I mean? I know these guys who got abducted just a half a mile down the road. This thing has got us in a floodlight. We're all trying to figure it out. And if you watch the video, someone will say, "Oh, could it be a helicopter? Maybe it's a drone. I don't know. It's not making any noise." And then as it got closer, it sounded like there was some kind of electrical hum.
Yeah, there was definitely like a hum to it, in my opinion. I actually posted the video in the chat, so you can see it if you chose to go over there, watch the little YouTube video. Sorry for the cursing in advance.
Yeah, because it's really freaking
swearing a little bit.
So anyway, as we're standing in, I don't know how long we're standing. I tell to Bill, and I go, "Give me a time check." And Bill says, 9 o'clock, Brian, or 9:30?
9:05 or something like that.
9 o'clock. So we get a time check. Okay. So then we get to our second location. It leaves. It just leaves. Boop, it leaves, and we go our way. We get to the second location, and we set up our second camp. And this location is, again, it's open location. It's got a good view of the sky because Bill wants to film for the
great camping spot,
meteor shower. Yeah, and the Appalachian Trail comes right off into this campsite. So, and we're discussing what happens, and I go, time check, and it's 9:30, and okay, it took us about 20 minutes to get to this spot.
Right.
And we call the psychic up again. It's 9:30 at night, and we ask the psychic, "Okay, what do you feel at this location?"
Yeah.
And she says, "Okay, this location is totally different from the last location you were just at. Totally. Here you're going to see," and she's telling us, "You're going to see these light anomalies in the woods, but they're not actually light anomalies." She called them woodland fairies. She said you're going to see shadow figures. You're going to see small woodland creatures hiding behind trees, like gnomes or leprechauns or something to that effect. I don't remember what she said. And we're all going, yeah, gnomes, leprechauns, woodland fairies, sure.
Little creatures, little fairies, big creatures, big kind of Indians. And
but I had told Bryan early on. I said, "Bryan, bring your laser pointer, and I'll bring my laser pointer. And if we see these light anomalies that light up in the back of the woods that people tend to chase but never catch, we won't chase them. We'll just hit them with the laser beams and see what happens." But we're sitting there, and Bill's filming the sky watch. I mean, the shower. And Bryan says, "I'm seeing these." Good, Bryan, you tell what you see.
Well, I'm sitting there, and I'm kind of catching these like creatures, little like white. I want to say gnomes or little creatures there that are kind of just they're kind of skirting behind the trees. And then you see things that are darker than the darkness that's out there, and it's different sizes. There are small ones, there are tall ones, and it's as I'm looking around, and it's not my eyes playing tricks on me. I'm actually seeing these things moving, and I'm telling them, like, we've got company. There's things in there, and you see, and it's not just in one location. The way I'm sitting, I'm facing the bulk of the woods. Al's opposite me, facing behind me, which is where the lake area is, and Bill is off to my left, trying to videotape for his own, programming, and they're all over. And I pretty much noticed these shadow figures, and I pointed out and I said, take a look over there, Bill. Look what do you got over there? And I'm pointing out, videotape in that direction, and eventually Al and Bill kind of hook up with each other because Bill has this. We hooked it up to a little like camera device where it was recording what he's videotaping, and this thing is running. You can see it running, and it gives you a little monitor, right? And then at this point, they both see these two white objects or entities or something just move from point A to point B quickly, and they were like, "Did you see that?" And
yeah, I'm holding the monitor. Bill's standing over my shoulder filming because Brian's saying, "Stop filming the meteor shower and start filming those woods," because I'm seeing these little white shadows running from tree to tree. So I'm holding the monitor. Bill is filming, and we see him. Elaine, we see two like little white shadows run. One runs to a tree, and then 2 seconds later, another one runs with it. And Bill is freaking out. He goes, "Did you see that?" And I go, "Yes, I'm looking at the monitor." Now we're all psyched up because we got it on film, we got it on video, we captured it.
We're using an SD card. It's perfect. This is awesome. We've got the proof we need.
At the same time, I'm seeing like these 7 to 9 foot shadow figures jumping from tree to tree. And I'm saying to Brian, "Do you see this?" And he's like, "No, I don't see it." And I go, "Bill, do you see it?" And I go, "Film up there." And I'm taking photographs with my digital camera, and Bill's filming the trees. And that's great too, story when we get to that. Bill's filming the trees, and I'm filming. Brian's taking pictures with his digital camera. I'm taking pictures with my digital camera. And we hear what sounds like a family coming down the Appalachian Trail. And they're hiking down a trail, and you can hear a mother and a father and a small boy and a small girl, and they're all talking and they're laughing. It sounds like they're skipping down the trail. And I'm saying, who the hell is walking down the Appalachian Trail
at like 10 o'clock at night?
At 10 o'clock at night in the dark on Halloween with their small children.
Yeah.
So I tell the guys, put your headlamp again, because we're sitting there in the dark. I said, tell them, put your headlamps on, because we're all armed to the teeth, and we don't want a family to come out and see 3 large men armed to the teeth sitting in the dark. So we put on our headlamps, and we're waiting for this family to come out. And we can hear them coming, and we're waiting. And we're waiting, and no one is coming out. So I say to Bill, grab your 1,000 luma flashlight. Let's go see what happened to these people. Yeah. So we actually hike up into the Appalachian Trail, and Bill's got his flashlight, and his flashlight is, when I tell you, it's amazing. It's amazing light, and it just lights up the Appalachian Trail, and there's nobody on the trail. There is absolutely nobody there. And we come back, and we're like, are we hallucinating? Is the energy of this place freaking us out? What the hell is going on?
The vocals didn't even trail off. It was as if they were coming around the corner. You know, when you hear somebody like outside your front door about to come in, family member, that's what it's. I'm like, you're waiting for them, you're anticipating them coming, and nothing happens.
Yeah, they sound like they were no further than 5 feet away from us. They really did. That's how close they sound. So at this point, we're debating what the hell is going on, and I see these 2 light anomalies light up on the other side of the lake from where we were originally. So I say to Brian, I said, "Brian, you hit the one on the right with your green laser beam. I'll hit the one on the left with my red laser." And I said, "Bill, when we do this, you light the whole area up with your lumen flashlight, and let's see what the hell is over there, because I'm not chasing these things through the woods, because I've read tons of reports of people chasing these things through the wood and never catch them." So on 3, we go. Boom. We hit these two little light anomalies on the other side of the lake. We hit them with our laser beams. As soon as we hit them with the laser beams, these things shut off. Like somebody hit a
Boom,
light, they shut off.
gone.
Bill hits the whole area with his lumen flashlight, and there's nothing there. Nothing runs from behind the bushes. Not that you wouldn't be able to see because there aren't any leaves on the bushes anyway. And there's nothing there. And we're sitting there just scratching our heads.
I get it.
At the same time, we're still taking photographs with our night vision cameras. I mean, with our digital cameras. And Brian says, "Look, in one of the photographs, I got what'd you get? Like a red fog."
Yeah, we were getting. I was getting. I don't know if it was the red one because we got red. We got a colored fog in the area where we had that Bigfoot encounter, and then where we were, I was getting little light anomalies in the woods, little sparkles, almost like eye shine in the woods. But then this like blue electric fog or whatever was
Blue mist.
present. Mist was present,
Yeah.
but you could see pretty well there. We had light over there. There was no mist forming. Yeah, lakes do form mist. It wasn't cold enough where the temperature was warm or hot to form it. This was just present, and it wasn't in all the photos, just select areas.
And then Brian says to me, "Al, check your photos because I'm getting a red fog and a blue mist." So I
Right.
check my photos, and again, I'm getting a red fog and a blue mist in my photos, and we're using totally two different cameras. So then Brian says to Bill, rewind the film on the video. Let's see what we get." And when Bill is actually filming the trees with the night vision camera, it looks like the whole tree is lit up. Looks like Christmas ornaments or Christmas
Yeah,
lights. All
little light.
it looked like Christmas decoration balls on the tree that were lit, reflecting light. And the trees are just they're all these light anomalies are all over these trees, every single direction, everywhere around us.
And you can't imagine that, like we're not seeing this with the naked eye. We're actually capturing this with video, and you can see certain things with naked eye, but when you went to the video, it was so prominent. You're like, oh my god, what the heck is this? Like fireflies.
So at this point, I decide to call the psychic again. So I said, "What time is it?" Because I said, "Bill, what time is it?" And Bill says it's 11:30. And I go, "What do you mean it's 11:30?" He goes, "Yeah, it's 11:30." I said, "What are you talking about? We've been here no more than a half hour. We just called the psychic at 9:30. There's no way we could have lost 2 hours worth of time. We haven't been here that long."
Yeah.
I would have swore my life on it that we were there no more than a half hour. Right, Brian?
All this transpired in what seemed to be honestly no more than 20 minutes.
Yeah,
And when we did the first time, time check, it was like 9:15. So we're thinking like 9:30, 9:45-ish. It's 11:30.
Yeah, we lost 2 hours of time.
Then
What's that?
we're all at a loss for some time then.
2 hours.
We're at a loss for about 2 hours worth of time. Doesn't feel like it, but we were definitely at a loss for 2 hours. And everybody's checking their watch. So then we started. One of the things we did, we went back and said, you know what? No, we were videotaping. It was at least, I saw 45 minutes on there. I saw what it looked like 45 on the counter of the video on the bottom end of the screen. So like this is incredible. And
I would have swore that we were there no more than a half hour. So we called the psychic. And we asked the psychic, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
We hear a family coming down the woods, and we see this, and we explain the whole thing. And she turns around and she says, well, you guys are in a space-time continuum. And that's why you heard the family. The family's not actually there tonight. The family that you guys heard are going to be there tomorrow. And the red fog and the blue mist is because you were in this space-time continuum, and that's because it was a crystal clear night. The whole night we were there was crystal clear. So, we're a little freaked out at this point, and we're very drained. The energy of the woods was just draining. So I said, okay, you know what? I wanted to be at the third location where the campers have seen the Bigfoots by 12 o'clock. And I said, let's pack up the gear. Let's head to the third location. So now the game plan going into the night was we'd get to the third location for 12, stay there for a little while, investigate it, see what happens, go back to the car, jump in the car, go to the diner, grab a bite to eat,
Yep.
cup of coffee, and discuss the evening. Well, we get to the third location, and it's like 10 to 12, and it's right at the time we want to be there. And then I remember, wait a minute, or at least I'm under the assumption, wait a minute, tonight's the night we turn the clocks back.
Right.
So it's not really 12, it's 11, and we're burnt out from the energy of the place. We've been in these woods for 7 hours, and the energy of this place is just draining. So I said, I don't know if I could sit here for another hour till
Right.
12 and then wait another hour till 1 and see if anything happens. Let's just call it a night. So now the whole night we're there, there's no life in the woods. You don't see any deers, you don't see any squirrels, you don't hear any crickets, no
Nothing.
frogs, no nothing. So as we're walking out, we decide to pack it up and just bail on the third location. Not if I would have known that the clocks weren't supposed to be turned back till
We
2 at
would have
night,
been at the third location.
we would have stayed there because it was already 10 to 12, and that's when I wanted to be there. So we're walking out, and it's crazy because we've had all this stuff happen to us, and we're discussing what a shitty night it was. We've been here all day, nothing's happened. And, like, we can't even comprehend all the stuff that we've been through. For some reason, we're thinking that it was a crappy night. There was nothing happening. And as the closer we get to civilization, the more animals we run into.
Yeah,
We run
deer
into
are coming out of everywhere now.
herds of deer on both sides of the trail. We see the squirrels jumping from tree to tree, or rummaging in the leaves. You hear the crickets. You hear the frogs in the swamp. And it's just mind-boggling. Yeah, Brian, tell what happens next.
Oh, so we're kind of like it was good that once we started making that like almost mile trek back to the cars, it all started kind of sinking in, and everybody was getting tired. I was wiped out. I had the longest trip. I had to go back into New York City from where I was. So I we all get to the cars, we bail, and we go home. And Al and Bill go together because they carpooled. And I don't know if they're thinking about getting something to eat too, but I think everybody, even they didn't go to get something to eat. Everybody went to their respective cars, homes, and I'm traveling home. And the feeling I'm getting is that I'm being watched or something's going to happen, an event. And as I'm driving, I'm looking around everything. I wasn't even paying attention for deer on one of these roads that you really need to pay attention for deer.
Absolutely.
And I just got this feeling like, something's out there, whatever. I get home. I pack in. I do a quick, shower just to, get the junk of the woods off me. And I go to bed. And I wake up the next morning. And my wife and kids are gone. They were out. They let me sleep that day. And I feel like I have like a bump or something on my head. And I'm like, what the heck is that? I feel pain in my head and like something's bugging me. Like I have a bump and I can't see any marks or what have you. And all of a sudden I have like phlegm and I'm like, I got this metallic-y taste in my mouth. And I'm like, what the heck is that? And so I spit up and it's blue. I don't have any candy on me. I had nothing on me that was blue whatsoever. It's this blue glob of phlegm. So I'm like, okay. I get on the phone and I'm like, how you been? How you doing? How's Bill? Check yourselves. Because I explained to him I got this headache, and I'm for some reason I got this really bad taste in my mouth, and I'm coughing. Like I have this stuff coming up, this blue stuff. Like I had a Smurf for breakfast. Like one of those little Papa Smurf or something like that. So Al starts. He starts. Going back and checking and. He says something like, well, I have this feeling in my lip, like I have something in my lip, right? And
yeah, I felt like I had a fat lower lip, like something was implanted in my lip, like
right.
from behind. And I'm looking in the mirror, I'm flipping my lip over, and I'm looking in the mirror. There's no marks, but the lip is swollen, and the lip is hard, and there's something hard in there, and I can't figure it out. And
right.
Brian says, call Bill. So I called Bill. I said, are you experiencing any ill effects from last night?
Right.
And Bill said he had a nightmare in the middle of the night. Tell you.
Bill is sleeping in bed in the middle. Gets home. I don't know, probably about 2 in the morning, 1, 2 in the morning, and he wakes up screaming violently. ah, ah. And his mother freaks out and she thinks he's, dying or something. Has no idea why, and he's just freaking out. So that's what Al finds from Bill. Well, everybody's kind of
Plus he had a bump on his head as well.
Yeah.
And none of us went down. Nobody fell that night. It was a good night. There was no injuries involved.
No one got hit in the head. No one got hit in the face. No one got poked by anything. No one fell or twisted their ankle. So that's going on. Well, we all, it's Sunday, so everybody goes their separate ways, and I'm getting prepared, and my wife actually comes through the door with the kids. Oh, Daddy's here, and I actually have to have my shirt off because I know we're supposed to go someplace. So I'm trying to get dressed, and both my kids go, "What happened? How'd you get hurt?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" There are 2 bruises on my body, black and blues, a little bit smaller than my fists. I didn't hit anything. I didn't have anything drag against me. I didn't get knocked into anything. I have no idea. I never would have looked down. They're like, "What happened to you?" I'm like, "I don't know. I had no clue what happened." Best part is Al calls Cindy the next day.
Brian calls me and he says, call Cindy and ask her what happened. So I call the psychic, and the psychic says, now I explained to her that, Brian's got these injuries. Everybody's has injuries.
We're kind of out of it too. It's just not, you're not feeling you're feeling in a fog.
She says to me, she goes, that's funny that you called and asked me. She goes, now our psychic is in Arkansas and she does everything else. She woke up with a rash on her arm. The same arm that she uses to hold the phone to her head, that we were putting our phone on the rocks, and she woke up with a rash, and she's in Arkansas. And she just said, that place is absolutely insane, and it's off. Now you got to understand one thing: before we start any investigation, whether it's paranormal at a cemetery, in the sane asylum, or just going squatching in the woods, we always protect ourselves. We do a white prayer. We protect ourselves with white light. We carry kosher salt in our pockets, kosher sea salt. We sage ourselves before and after. We sage our equipment. We sage our cars. We sage everything. We always protect ourselves. So we have no idea how these injuries occurred. And it's just mind-boggling. Just that night was just mind-boggling. We've had everything happened to us that night that could possibly happen to us.
That's amazing. Really amazing.
Yeah. It was a crazy night. And then a few months go by, and I'm being drawn into the woods. I feel like I need to go to that swamp where we heard those tree knocks, those rock knocks, where we heard those whoops. I'm being drawn. So I called Bill and I called Brian. I said, listen, I want to take a walk take a ride over the lake and just check it out. And they're like, oh, you're not going alone. We're coming with you. So I said, all right, but if we go, I don't want to stop off at every single location that we've ever stopped off. I want to go straight to the swamp. No changing our direction. Let's go straight to the swamp. So everybody's like, okay, in agreement. We go to the swamp, and we get to the swamp, and we're looking at the swamp, and it doesn't look like anything other than a swamp. And we're looking, and we find some scat on top of the hill, and then all of a sudden, we start really paying attention to our surroundings, and there's the archways, and there's the tree breaks, and there's the twisted saplings, and all this stuff is starting to pop up at us, and we're taking pictures of everything. And at one point, I jump up on this huge rock, and it's a big boulder.
Big, nice-sized boulder.
I jump up on it, and I see a trackway walking directly into the swamp. And it's a pretty strange trackway because the steps are one in front of the other, not like a person would walk. And the cattails that are in the swamp are pushed to the left, to the right, and it looked like when it walked, it dragged its toes because it was pulling cattails over its step. Excuse me. So I call Bill. Bill jumps up on the rock, and he's filming the trackway. Brian jumps up on the rock, and there's 3 big guys on this huge rock, and we're all filming. And Bill is zoomed into the trackway. He's following the trackway right to the end where it ends, and he notices there's something at the end of this trackway. And to look at it with your naked eye, It didn't look like anything other than bushes or trees, right, Bri?
Maybe a mound, a couple of rocks, or something to that effect.
It didn't look like anything. Then Bill says, "Holy crap! I think it's a den. I think
Yeah.
we found the den." And now we're looking at it and we're like, you know what? It's absolutely a den because there's no way those branches and those trees and those vines grew that way. It's pulled over. So then Bill runs up on top of the hill where we were originally, and he notices that there's a trackway that comes out of the den from behind and goes straight down the swamp to the north. So he says, "I'm going in. I'm going in. I got to see what's in this." And we're like, "Are you out of your mind?
You're not
We
making
don't
it.
know. We don't know what's in it." Number one,
Yeah.
and maybe this is the reason why I was being drawn to the swamp to find this den, and maybe this is the reason why that night the creatures wanted us out of that location because they were trying to get back home and we were in their way. And all this stuff is going through our heads.
Right.
And Bill is filming, so he jumps off the rock and he tries to go into the swamp. He's going to follow the same pathway that the creature did. And as soon as he steps in, he sinks down to his knees. And Brian and I have to pull him out. And we find all kinds of skeletons. What was that? Like a turtle skeleton?
Yeah, big turtle skeletons, and these things, like again, they're like they're large size because of the material that was found actually in the lake.
So then we go back to our monthly meeting and we take all this video. And when we have our monthly meeting, we use a 55-inch flat screen TV, something really big. And we
Nice.
plug all of this video into the flat screen TV. And we're looking at the den and we're breaking it down frame by frame. Good, Brian, you want to take it?
And I'm the guy that's breaking it down frame by frame, how I do things. So I'm looking, and I didn't really pay attention. I watched the video Bill shot. I didn't see anything worthy of putting too much effort into it. And get a phone call and from Al saying, "Hey, Bill's mom saw something in the video." So I'm like, okay. So I call up Bill and I said, "Okay, what did your mom see in the video?" And she says, "Well, we were at this point. I was showing it to somebody else." And she goes, "What's that big monkey doing on the screen?" And that triggered for me. And I'm like, "Big monkey." I'm like, okay. I say, "What part are you in?" So we go to that part where we find the discovery. And I literally took each frame by frame. And I'm going through it. And I upload it to my software. And I'm going through frame by frame. And I'm watching this thing. And the next thing you know, you see eye shine and small eye shine, and then you see movement, and then you see a snout, and you see teeth, just like, and it growling like the face, and then you see a really big ear, and it's like, oh my god, that den was occupied while we were there.
Yeah, and
it looks it looks a lot like not just Bigfoot, but there's another creature. People call them werewolves. The Native Americans called them skinwalkers, wendigos, what have you. A lot of people call them dogmen. But it looks like a dogman type 3, which is a combination of a Bigfoot and a dogman if they got together. And I'm like, holy cow! I get in touch with Al, and he starts seeing the big one. And it's looking one direction. I'm like, we're just blown away by this. And I actually posted a link to our site that has the photos that we put up there for these photos and the video that where you can see it. And I'm going to post a link to Bill's original video. The problem is it goes so fast that you have to slow it down. But if you do look at it in full frame, it's not what people would say shadow play, where the shadow, because you're moving the camera and the shadows are changing. The day wasn't like that, and none of this even fell into that category. I mean, I literally searched for that. This was literally eye movement. There's a larger creature to the left of the screen. The eye is ginormous compared to me. I mean, it's at least about this much bigger than my eye. And it's dark and it's pretty freaky looking. And just below it, you can clearly see a snout and what looks like a German Shepherd head.
Yeah. We actually brought that video back to our next month's meeting, and we ran it again.
Yeah.
And we actually were looking for everything. And as we had it up on the big 55-inch screen TV, you could see this giant wolf head or German Shepherd head in a dark shadow, two pointy ears, a long snout, a big neck, and it's looking to the right. And behind that is this creature that I would describe looked like the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh yeah.
And you can see its eye blink. And 1 minute its eye is open, and the next minute its eye is closed. And to the left of that creature is this other creature that looks like, I don't know, a combination of hyena or a baboon, and it's looking right at us, and it's
Oh, yeah.
growling. It's showing its teeth,
Huh.
its lips are up, and it's like, "Argh!" It's pissed that we're there. And to the right of that creature is what we would call either the juvenile Sasquatches or the pups, because there was like 3 or 4 little creatures standing there, and you have a combination of 3 different kinds of these cryptids all in the same den. And I don't know if Sasquatch and these dogmen are interbreeding and you're getting, these offsprings of different kinds of creatures or what. But I'm telling you, we see all of this stuff once Bill's mother seen what she called the monkeys.
Yeah.
And we actually slowed it down and zoomed in and looked at that stuff and frame by frame and just, I mean, everything started popping out, and it's just an amazing photo. And we
Oh,
have
yeah.
to get back to that den. Brian actually bought a drone. He's going to fly in this time, So
Yeah.
we're gonna get in that den, and we're gonna get video for
Good to
sure.
know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was hoping that it would be like a dry summer this year, and it would be a drought, and the swamp would be a little dried out, so we could actually get into it.
Right.
But it was actually just rained all summer long, so it must have anything else. It was just the opposite happened. It was full of water, so we haven't gotten back into that den, and we it's definitely on the to-do list, but we have a lot of stuff on our to-do list as our team moves forward in the future. So we're always don't want to keep going back to the same location and
Even if it becomes a
beating a
hot
dead
spot,
horse.
there's more to paranormal than just that
Cryptids.
hot spot or cryptids. I mean, kind of in a way, you couldn't write a better story for us, because we had this cryptid creature. We have a craft that's flying. We don't know where it's from. Definitely a UFO because it's unidentified. And then we had these
Sure.
like woodland creatures mixed with Sasquatch, Bigfoot mixed with druids or the ancients. I mean, our psychic was saying things that was like, has she been drinking?
Yeah.
What is she drinking today? Because it's like woodland creatures. But she even said, she goes, you left at a certain time and you are fine to leave. I mean, it's actually in your best interest in a way to leave. But had you stayed there longer, and had you stayed there, you would have been approached. They were on the cusp of approaching you and letting their presence know, which kind of like bums you out, and that's why you want to run back. But there's more to the paranormal. I like the fact that we were interacting with creatures that you only hear in fairy books, woodland creatures, gnomes, I don't know, woodland, like other elves or whatever they are. When you tell people these things, we thought she was crazy. I mean, this isn't Ireland.
You know what? That's amazing. I mean, you can't what you're taking pictures of.
Oh, it's incredible what they can do, and we're getting these images of these lights and these bursts and these colors and this mist and this shift. I didn't have full spectrum back then. Now I have full spectrum cameras. I've converted a couple into full spectrum, and it would have been nice to be able to see what it's like, because maybe we're using the wrong spectrum of light. And one of the things that I've written about numerous times is that we do a lot with infrasound, because we use the Tibetan singing bowls.
Mhm.
And it's really funny, when we went back to the lake and we were going towards the den where we discovered the den and the swamp, it was very quiet going in there until we got back to that point where we had our last point when we were coming out of the investigation previously. And we broke out, we used Tibetan singing bowls. and there's an app actually that mimics them very well. It's recorded in a studio, so you're getting the actual sound of the bull. The minute this is what's interesting. The minute we started doing that, we started getting some crazy stuff taking place in our area. It ramped up.
Great.
So yeah. So and then what a very interesting couple months thereafter, Bill, who was with us again, he's playing the video, and it gets to the Tibetan singing bowl portion of the video, that they're watching, and they have this like phonetic generator thing, a ghost app on their machine, on his mom's cell phone. It goes off. So we got this playing, and it goes off. So we do think there's a correlation between infrasound and being able to open yourself up to the spirit realm or the paranormal, what people classify paranormal. We think some creatures, well, I do personally, Bigfoot uses infrasound. That's why there's no clear pictures of Bigfoot. When they're aware of something there, it's kind of like a scent gland for a skunk. They'll just start building up that smell before spraying, saying, look, stay away from me. Bigfoots, we believe, Sasquatch creatures, lions have the ability to do it too, by the way. Plenty of creatures in normal, everyday type of nature. But we think that they do something where they can emit a sound, and that's what interferes with the light waves, which is why your camera, when you're taking a picture, it can't capture that. Everything around it is crystal clear. But that one image of the Bigfoot, you can't see it. It's almost every picture.
Let me just clarify something Brian said. We did have the full spectrums when we were at the first location, but unfortunately the batteries on the full spectrums only last like an hour and a half. So by the time we got to the second location,
that was me. Sorry, someone's ringing my buzzer. So.
By the time we got to the second location and we had all those woodland creatures and stuff like that, the batteries on the full spectrum cameras were dead because we only had one that time. Now we have more than we have, like 3 or 4 of them at this point. So and extra batteries, so we're ready to go. But and that's the only reason why we didn't have the full spectrums going at that time, because the batteries just die really quickly. So,
yeah.
I don't want people thinking that he's contradicting himself because he forgot to mention that the battery died on the camera. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a problem when you get to certain situations. Also, we've been on investigations where we're physically looking at our recorders going, brand new batteries, and I know I'm recording, the lights on, Al's lights on. It's it's moving. Then when you get back home, there's nothing on it. The battery dies.
And while we're on this subject, we actually, the following day when we called Bill and we said, what did you get on the night vision camera that he was filming with? Because we knew it was filming. We seen it. I was holding the monitor. And Brian was looking at the time thing, changing the timestamp. When he went to replay it the next day because he's got a big 55-inch screen TV, there was nothing on it.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing on the video. Not even the meteor shower. Nothing.
Yeah. There's no arc. See, it's really fun. I do a lot with technology, and usually if there's an error, there should be an archive file, some kind of file that says, hey, like you had something here. This had nothing. Nothing at all. And it's not one of those, it's a micro SD. So it's not susceptible to a lot of the other problems that you would have with some of the other drives, magnets or whatever. So I could swear I saw it, but nothing was recorded. We don't have any evidence of it, which is really upsetting when you definitely saw it go from point A to point B. Although I had the video evidence for the craft.
Yeah. But
I have a camera. Gee, it's a digital. I sure wish I could send it to you, and you can turn that into a.
It's very easy, and I'll tell you offline how to do it. It's difficult. I actually, unfortunately, I did it for a couple of cameras, and I got Al to buy one of these little mini GoPro type of things, but it's not GoPro. They're all made in China. It's the same thing, and I've done several of them, and I got it, and he got a brand new one, and I opened it up, and I thought I had it. And I just caused an error, and I'm like, okay, good news, bad news. Good news is you got a brand new camera coming your way. The bad news is I broke the camera.
Oh, no.
You know
I
what?
told him not to sweat it. It was no
You know,
big
2 out of 3 ain't bad. But
deal.
but it's we get those things. How come you don't? You should use a GoPro all the time. It's like that people don't understand. We do this because of our love for the subject matter. We want answers. We want information, and we want to present it to people. We're not selling anybody. We're not pushing anything. We don't have a hidden agenda. This is information. That's why everything we do, all our video, all the raw footage, we throw it up there, and we have people look at it. Look, if you can find something, note the time, submit it to
Absolutely.
us. We want your help.
There are
Okay.
people out there that have much better equipment than we do, and if they can find something and point it out to us, we will definitely go back and check it out. And you know what? Even if you could debunk anything that we have, we'll go out because we go back and we check our video, all of our evidence over and over and over again for stuff that we missed, and
Yeah.
we debunk ourselves at times. We really do.
I'd love to
So
go out there with you. I'd love to see that spot.
Oh, you can. I mean, if you want to come down, I don't know how long that trip would be. I don't know what part of the country you're in, or the North America. Which one?
I'm in Muskoka, Ontario.
oh, Ontario. Okay.
Okay, so I'm just trying to figure out where that is. What's next to Muskoka to the right? I'm just trying to. I used to work. I've been to Toronto.
Okay, Toronto. Muskoka is about a couple of hours
to the left.
I'm sorry,
South
of Toronto.
North of Toronto. Okay. For some reason, I've been there. I spent a lot of time on the eastern coast of Canada, St. Andrews and St. John's. We used to go to St. Andrews by the sea.
Everybody we tell this story to, Elaine, every single radio host that we've ever told this investigation to, everybody wants to come with us. Everybody wants to come with us. They want to experience it. I think the only person who said they didn't want to come was Mallard from the Mallard Report, because he said, you guys already experienced anything. If I come, there's not going to be anything to experience. He was the only one, but everybody else.
Not going to happen for me. But you know what? Something happens 99.9% of the time.
God bless you.
And yeah, God bless. And it's we don't offer everybody to go there. And we don't. If you do go there, go with somebody. Do not go by yourself. It is still a rural area. It's the Appalachian Trail, and I don't care what anybody says. Even in the safe areas, it's the Appalachian Trail. It's always been used throughout time since it's been, by thieves and cowards and what have you, besides the animals that are there. People go missing all the time. So just be prepared.
If you go hiking with your children, please put an adult in the beginning and adult at the end to keep the children in between you.
And in eyesight.
Because children go missing all the time. I mean, I've heard stories and I've read stories where a family was walking down a trail and the father was in front and the mother was behind him and the kids were behind them. But they were only like 4 feet behind him. And in 1 second, the mother turns around and the boy and the girl are there. And the next second, the mother turns around and one of the children are missing and they can't find them. And they can't find, just disappears off the face of the earth. And a second ago it was there, and a second later the child is gone. So please keep the children not only in eyesight, but in between 2 adults. Always keep them in between 2 adults when you're hiking along the trails. And that goes for any trail. Keep them in between you guys. It's you don't know what's out there. I mean, the more stuff we investigate, especially in the woods, the more things we find. I've seen creatures in the woods that, just, I wouldn't even know how to describe them. Never mind, these, and Sasquatches can go from anywhere from 7 feet tall to 12 feet tall. And the same thing with these werewolf type creatures. They can range from anywhere from 6 foot to 12 foot. These are really big creatures, very big, very powerful. And then just, according to the psychic, there's so much stuff that lives in these woods that come in and out from different dimensions, and they just pop in, they pop out, and we have no idea just what goes on in the woods at night. You know,
Right.
well, we
Oh, for
can't
sure.
see past our nose, and you know, it's fun, and it's a fun thing to do to investigate, and it's a great thing to go camping and stuff like that. But please always protect yourself spiritually and physically. If
Yeah.
you're in a location like we were, that's federal land, and you can't carry any firearms on it, or
Don't carry
state land.
firearms.
Um, yeah, don't carry firearms. You'll just shoot yourself. You know, protect yourself with a machete or a knife or a pepper spray, something that will be able to at least give you the opportunity to back out of a dangerous situation. You know,
Yeah.
that's all. You want to give yourself an opportunity to survive a dangerous situation. And we know, you know, through research, with these werewolf type creatures that are found in the woods, we've discovered that, you know, they don't like bright lights or flashing lights like a strobe light. We
Fire.
know they don't like fire. They don't like loud noises like whistles or air horns. So when we go out and if we're investigating these kind of creatures, these are the kind of tools we bring with us, not to kill them, because if you come
No.
across something 12 feet tall, 1,000 pounds, we're not going to be able to kill it, but to give us the opportunity to back
Uh-oh.
away and give us a little time just to get out of a dangerous
Yeah.
situation. And basically that's it. You know, just protect yourself. Don't go into the woods blindly. That's all I want to say.
Oh, absolutely. Well, gee, thank you so much, gentlemen, both of you. It's been an astounding show. I'm sure.
Thank you for having us.
I appreciate being on. It was
Oh,
wonderful.
I appreciate having you. I hope you'll come back on again sometime.
We
I got it.
we have a lot more investigations
Yeah.
we can talk about. This is just Nuclear Lake.
Yeah.
we've
You know,
done a lot of investigations.
just so
Well,
you can take a look at some of our stuff, if you go to BronxvilleParanormalSociety.com, and on the front page, if you go under investigations, or you'll see some great video and footage of things that we've encountered in the paranormal, ghost hunting, whatever you want to call it. I think you'll enjoy it.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
we have video and photographs and EVPs. We got everything up, and
Yeah.
we have all of our radio interviews up there as well under the media guide. And
Right.
you know, you go to the menu and you'll see everything up there. All of our reports for everything. We get local UFO reports all the time, and we take and we post them. You know, just to keep everybody up to date what's going on in our skies above us. So.
Oh yeah. I
Well,
mean,
it's-
it's
yeah. So, is there anyone that you gentlemen would care to give a shout out to before we close, or?
shout outs. I could give a shout out to our new radio program.
Go for it, Brian.
I have to plug. So we on Paranormal UK Radio Network, that's paukradio.com. The last Thursday of the month from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is our program called Beyond the Realm. It's everything you ever wanted to know, but we're too afraid to ask. And we have a great guest coming up this month. We have the Sullivan Paranormal Society, and they're going to discuss their work and their experiences in the paranormal and investigating. They have some great evidence. And we have another guy coming up, Arizona Tramp, the month after. But check that out. And, of course, our website. We're BronxvilleParanormalSociety.com. We're on everything but Pinterest because I don't think we can find a pin that we can pin up there with all this paranormal. So,
There, isn't it?
yeah, it's just doesn't suit paranormal Pinterest, but yeah.
Yeah, and go on Facebook and give us a like there on the Bronxville Paranormal Society and on Beyond the Realm. We have a Facebook page for that as well.
Well, that's great.
Thank you
Yeah.
thank you for having us.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on, both of you. I really enjoyed our talk. You know, we put it through 2 hours, and it just doesn't seem like it. So,
Yeah, I mean, it goes fast. It really does.
It does.
yeah, it was very, very interesting, and thank you so much.
Good night, Elaine.
You got
Good
it.
night.
Take care. God
Good
bless.
night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching this evening's show. Our special guests were Alfred Santariga and Bryan Bowden. And they really did present an awful lot of very interesting information. And you'll notice in the chat area that Bryan has posted an awful lot of information that shows the proof of some of the things that they have seen, which is really astounding. So thank you so much for watching, and you have a good night. Bye for now. God bless.